All right, well, this morning we have an interview with Dr. Michael Lindsay. Michael is a prominent sociologist, author, and currently president of Gordon College. He has degrees from Baylor, from Princeton Theological Seminary, from Oxford, and again from Princeton, his PhD from Princeton. And may I just say that's an impressive collection. I do baseball cards, you do advanced degrees. His book, Faith in the Halls of Power, How Evangelicals Joined the American Elite, was published in 2007. The Economist magazine called it a critical look at the nexus between God and power in modern America. Did you notice how they used nexus?
Nicely done.
Yes, we paid dearly for that. In 2014, Dr. Lindsay published another book called View from the Top, an inside look at how people in power see and shape the world. This was a groundbreaking study of 550 elite leaders in government, business, Fortune 100 companies, academia, nonprofits, people like presidents, secretaries of state, on what shaped their leadership. So, I want to ask a few questions about that research, kind of some of the conclusions he came to. So, Michael, can you give us a bird's eye view of that research, what went into it, who you interviewed, and why?
So it started as my dissertation at Princeton, and I was interested in figuring out what makes leaders tick. And I spent 10 years of my life getting a chance to interview some amazing individuals, traveled everywhere from Bar Harbor, Maine to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and logged about 400,000 frequent flyer miles. We still enjoy that in our family to this day. It's a great project. And View from the Top is intended to be a very practical book, a book I wrote for my college students so that they could understand what is it that makes the inner lives of people who are in positions of responsibility and authority, and how can you take advantage of the opportunities and frankly the challenges that the Lord brings along your path in order to make a positive difference. So the book is organized around 7 chapters. It's just basically trying to give very practical ideas of how you can make a positive difference wherever you might be, and as we're on a pathway of positions of greater responsibility and influence.
In all that research, all those interviews, what was the biggest surprise that came out of it that you just didn't expect?
So as a sociologist, we spent a lot of time measuring quantitative variables. And we had about 500 different variables we were looking at, all of which I thought would make a difference in somebody's likelihood of being a leader later in life. But the most amazing thing is that we found there's actually not a single variable that you can measure in a person's life before age 20 that was statistically significantly related to their likelihood of becoming a leader later in life. It doesn't matter if you were born into a wealthy family or a poor family. It doesn't matter if you were the student body president or if you were highly unpopular in high school. I think that's always good news for some of us. It doesn't matter if you were a varsity athlete or an artist. It doesn't matter what kind of grades. It actually does not matter where you went to undergrad. We found that 14% of the people in my study did an undergraduate degree at an Ivy League institution, which means 86% did not. But what we found is that the critical decades of leadership development happen in your 20s and 30s. So right now, you are in the midst of the most important time to set the trajectory of your life course. Once you get to be about age 40, the angle of that trajectory doesn't change that much. Now, you can accelerate it or decelerate it, but actually the 20s and 30s are the most important critical decades. And within that, we found that probably the most important thing is that you have to get a mentor, someone who will speak into your life. And formal mentoring programs rarely work. So like if you're thinking about, I sign up for this and then you get matched with somebody, sometimes that works, but actually most of the time it doesn't. What's far more significant is when you get into an environment where there is an ecosystem of mentoring relationships, that you've got to be in a situation where you actually interact with adults, that you have relationships with people who are 10, 20 years older than you are, and that you can create some kind of a context where you can say, can I buy you a cup of coffee? I'd love to hear your story. Very simple advice I give to students at Gordon is that if you want one of the speakers who comes to campus to become a mentor in your life, which is actually a very live possibility because those kind of people who come and speak on college campuses, they mentor young people every single day. So how do you get somebody who was the former Secretary of State to suddenly be your mentor? Well, you go up and you introduce yourself after they speak. not rocket science. You ask if you could get their business card, and then you send them a handwritten note, because we live in a day and age where people don't write letters anymore. You send them a handwritten note, and then you stay in touch with them. You wouldn't be amazed at how often simple things like just staying in contact with somebody could develop that kind of mentoring relationship, would make a critical difference in your 20s and 30s.
Michael, we don't even make phone calls anymore. We
Yeah.
text. Handwritten notes, that would be impressive.
It stands
Yes.
out.
All
That's
right.
true.
In your book, you use the word or the term platinum or platinum leaders. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, so we were looking for a term. I had a research team of about 20 folks, and we were looking for a term to describe really exceptional leaders. We found that of the 550 people, about 20% of them had such extraordinary leadership stories and experiences that just had taken them to much higher levels of influence. And we measured it in lots of different ways. I won't bother you with all the statistical details. But basically, 1 out of 5 of the people I interviewed are really extraordinary leaders. And we were trying to figure out what it was that made them so special. It was a rare quality. They had this interpersonal giftedness and an ability to draw people into their vision and to be able to stick with it. I learned that platinum is not just a rare metal and something that's likable so people want their wedding bands to be made of it, but actually platinum is a very durable material. It doesn't melt. It doesn't have this ability to where it tarnishes. It stays solid for a long period of time. And it has this remarkable ability to be both highly valuable, but also highly durable. The most important leadership lesson that you learn when you interview 550 people is that every one of them goes through an existential crisis, a real problem. The question is not whether you're going to engage problems in your life. It's how you respond to those. The most important dimension of leadership is the ability to be resilient, to bounce back. What Angela Duckworth at Penn has called grit. Developing that is what we found made a key difference in someone's likelihood of being an exceptional leader versus being just one of the group. And that's what differentiates platinum leaders from the rest of the folks.
Okay, last question. 550 people it's a lot of people to interview, especially at that level. Of all those people, who was the most impressive?
Well, most intimidating was Colin Powell. Most effervescent was Kathy Lee Gifford. Most unusual was the board chair at MIT. Most impressive. I closed the book with a story of Mike Ullman. Mike's an amazing guy. He has severe dyslexia, and so by his own account, he really doesn't read. And he has had enormous struggles in his life. About 30 years ago, he was diagnosed with a rare degenerative spinal condition such that he really can't walk. The left side of his body, he can't really rely upon. So when he's driving, he drives with his right hand. When he opens the door, he has to reach across to pull the door to close. Mike feels pain every single moment that he's awake. But he's also the most accomplished leader in the world of retail alive today. He's been the CEO of 3 different enterprises, one in Europe, well, actually 4. One in Europe, 2 in the US, 1 in Asia. He's been the CEO of Macy's, the CEO of JCPenney, the CEO of Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, LVMH, which owns all the luxury goods based in Paris. And he founded DFS and invented an entire industry that we now know as duty-free shops. He started that in Hong Kong. Extraordinary individual. Mike's also a very committed Christian, and his employees love him. 40,000 employees, and their employee engagement scores are higher than that of Starbucks. His customer service scores are the highest in the industry. And at the height of his career, 2 out of 5 American families were doing business with his company. So really impressive guy. But Mike would say that it is the pain and suffering that he experiences on a daily basis and that he has endured throughout his life that has caused him to be a different kind of leader. And in the process of that, he's had a very profound impact on many, many folks. So Mike is probably the person who had the biggest impact on me personally. And probably one of the greatest satisfactions of my study is that I got to know Mike, he became a friend, and is a mentor in my own life.
Amazing. All right, well, in a couple of years, Dr. Lindsay will be doing this all over again, and so he's going to be come looking for you all to interview for leadership. But thank you for taking the time with us. Just want to say his book, View from the Top, an inside look at how people in power see and shape the world. It's at the book table if you want to buy a copy. I'm sure finals, last-minute papers can wait. You'll want to get this book. So thanks.
Great. Thank you very much.